Good afternoon, everybody. My name is June Bolneo, and I'm the co-founder of Work Remote. Uh, Today, we are going to be discussing the introduction to remote working. I'm very excited to be talking about this particular topic because I think there's a lot of things, a lot of misconception when it comes to remote working. Especially during these troubled times, the pandemic kind of forced everybody to work from home. And the most common misconception is that working from home directly correlates or is equals to remote working. And so we're going to go ahead and touch on that topic a little bit, but let me go through the slides and we're going to discuss it further. So what is remote working, right? So if you could type in the chat, maybe you can share with us your ideas. What is your perception of remote working? What is remote working for you, right? And then we can go ahead and go into the technical details of it. So remote working or remote work is actually a working style that allows professionals to work outside of a traditional office environment. And basically, this means that remote work or remote working is not just working from home. It means it's a way of working. It can be in the office. It can be in a co-working space. It can be from home, in a library, in a cafe, right? And what we want to emphasize is that it's basically remote working is not a location, because most of the time people think that because they are working, they are allowing people to work from home, that automatically means that it's remote working. Yes, it can be considered as a location, a remote location from the office, but that doesn't equate, or that doesn't equals to remote working immediately, right? Remote working is basically having or allowing people to choose where they work more productively, and that could be from home. And that's what we want to emphasize. Now, there are different types of remote companies. So we have all remote companies. That means that by default, they are remote. They don't have an office, but it could also be they are remote only within a certain geography. It could be only within the city, or it could be all remote within a specific country, or in some cases, it could be all remote in a specific continent or a region. There are many reasons why companies would choose an all remote with a geography limitation. And that has a lot to do with the business entity, the legal entities of the businesses. Maybe they only have legal entities in certain areas. Maybe they only want that particular time frame because that's during their office hours, and there's going to be an overlap with their teammates. It really depends on the company who's offering this to their employees, right? But they do exist, and they are all over the world. And fully distributed companies are something similar as well. They are also all remote. They don't have an office, but they're fully distributed across time zones, across all regions. It means that it doesn't matter where you are located. Like companies like GitLab and Automatic, they hire people from everywhere. We actually have people from Automatic. Marjorie is going to be joining us later today, and she can tell us a little bit more about what a fully distributed company is like, what it's like to work for a fully distributed company. The culture is different, when you're fully distributed. Now, GitLab, we also have Filipinos in GitLabs. We have GitLabbers in the Philippines, and the point is that we have companies, fully distributed companies or all remote companies, who are willing to hire from the Philippines. And then we have the two other types of remote companies, which is remote first hybrid and remote friendly hybrid. So these are the hybrid types of remote working, right? Microsoft is a really good example of a hybrid company. So they are trying to embrace a remote first culture. That means that by default, they are remote. They are flexible. They can choose their schedule, whether they want to go ahead and work from the office or whether they want to work from home or from another location that is approved by their company, then they can go ahead and choose to do so. So the Microsoft is giving the power to their employees to be able to choose that for themselves. Another good example is Facebook is actually trying to go remote as well, or remote first. A lot of big companies from the Silicon Valley, you know, the big tech companies have started this transition to being a remote first company, giving the option to their employees to be able to work from home, or if they want to move out of Silicon Valley, because California is expensive, right? And so they would allow their employees to work from anywhere, because they're most of the fully distributed companies, or all remote companies, they are in tech. Not all of them, but it's a lot easier for tech companies to adapt to this new way of working, because most of the tasks that they do are actually can be done online. And so they realized, especially when the pandemic hit, like a lot of companies started realizing like, hey, we can actually do this, and they are choosing, they're in this phase where they want to choose between do they want to go hybrid first, or do they want to go, remote first or remote friendly, right? But they are in this section in the remote first or remote friendly. So remote friendly companies are companies that are by default working in the office, but you can go ahead and work from home if you want to, right? But they expect the employees to go to the office on a normal basis. And so, as you can see, there's many. This is not by all means the full list of remote companies. There's a lot of diversification. You also have like flexible companies wherein your shift can actually move from the morning to the night. There's a certain allowance of hours that you can move your shift. So it really depends on the company, but we kind of put them in these 4 buckets to make it easier for people to understand, right? So I hope this kind of enlightens you of what type of companies are out there. And when you start applying for a company, you can go ahead and try asking them, are you all remote? Are you fully distributed? Or if you are applying for a regular company, maybe in the Philippines, somewhere in the city, you would say, are you remote first hybrid, or are you remote friendly hybrid, right? So this would actually make you understand, or allows you to kind of understand what the culture of the company is like before you even join them, or before you even show up in an interview. So aside from the different types of remote companies, we also have 3 different types of remote workers. And I think when in the Philippines, when we talk about remote workers, we automatically associate it with gig workers or freelancers, which is the most typical type of work, online work that we get from the Philippines. I also started as a freelancer and a contractor many years ago, right? And so and this is it when we started as Filipinos, started adapting to this new way of working. The entry point was actually in the freelancing contractual part. However, either the freelancer, contractor, or the online entrepreneurs, wherein you create your own business, right? Or you sell something online. Those 2 are the most common in our country. However, what not many people know is about remote employees. And remote employees are actually it's like you belong to a regular company with your contracts and social security and taxes and all of the benefits that you would get from a normal employee, but you don't have an office, right? So going back to the type of companies that we spoke about earlier, if you belong to an all remote company or a fully distributed company, right? You could be living in the Philippines, but your teammates can be distributed all over the world, and your company would not have an office. Therefore, it really doesn't make any sense for them to to kind of like require you to go to the office, because there is none. There is no headquarters, and so all of their employees are remote employees, right? And this doesn't, we don't talk about it very often because most of us don't know they exist. However, there's actually, a lot of opportunities out there, because if you realize, especially now, right after the pandemic, and companies have started adapting to remote working, the people that they will hire later on will most likely be remote. Especially during this period, it's very difficult for us to ask somebody to go to a physical office. So most of the time, if they are going to be hiring anytime soon, most likely it's going to be a remote employee, right? So this is like the right chance for you to start applying, the right time for you to start applying. But knowing these three types of remote workers would also kind of enlighten you, like, which path do I want to take, right? Do I want to have my own business, right? If that is something that you want, then most likely you will be drawn to becoming an online entrepreneur, where you have your own store, you have your own products and services that you sell, you are your own company, right? And if you are more of a freelancer, because you want to work for a project, or you want to work with multiple clients, you want to own your time a bit more, like you don't want to work full time, you only want to work X amount of hours per day, then the freelancing part might be more attractive for you. And then if you want something a bit more stable, and you want to work full time, there's a lot of benefits in being a remote employee, because then you would be, you have the contract, social security is taken care of on your behalf, and the taxes are being processed on your behalf as well. Then maybe the remote employee would be a good option for you, like to have that sort of stability when you're talking about work. Right? So keep these three things in mind when you go ahead and start looking for work. It's important that you choose which one before you even start applying, or at least keep that in the back of your head, right? So I want a full-time job. I want to only work in the afternoons, or I want a side hustle. So meaning you shouldn't be applying for full-time remote work if you're only looking for a side gig. Or if you want a full-time remote job, you shouldn't be looking for a side gig, right? It could be, but it would be more effective for you to actually focus down on which path you want to take. Now, we have been doing these initiatives in other places as well, especially here in Portugal, because I am actually based in Portugal right now. I'm originally from Cebu. I'm actually Cebuana, Bisayang Dako, Bistak. So I'm a Cebuana. We moved here about almost 5 years ago. It's going to be 5 years this year. My Portuguese is still terrible, but but my Bisaya is very good though. So it's still very good. But the point is, we actually ran similar programs here in Portugal. And this is the data that we've collected from that program that we ran last year. So the highlights of our past programs, right? 63 of our applicants were women. And this is not, but this is just data from one program, and our other programs actually shows more or less the same data. The need for remote working and full-time work, a stable online job, usually is, in the women's side. We kind of want it. more than the men. I'm sure the male side of our species also wants it, but we kind of want it more. We want to stay at home, take care of our kids, be closer to our family, right? And out of all of the applicants that we received, 64% of them want full-time remote work, right? So they want employment. And you would be relieved to know, if you do not have any online experience, 50% of all of our, from that batch also do not have any working, online experience. So don't feel so bad. It's normal, because this is a new way of working. We didn't have any experience about this, right? And we are currently adapting to it right now. And so with regards to the industry, we have tried to rank all of the industries that submitted the application. And surprisingly, we do have tech in there, right? But the highest were people from sales and marketing. So, and the fact is, there's a lot of ICT jobs out there, a lot of sales and marketing jobs out there. And what businesses need, and I don't know if you guys, everybody knows about this, but sales and marketing is very diverse. You could be doing sales and marketing for any type of business. And you imagine all types of businesses need sales and marketing. So imagine how many businesses do we have now, in existence in the Philippines, globally. How many businesses do we have? And all of those businesses will need sales and marketing, digital sales, digital marketing. And they will need people. They will need, help to run their sales and marketing campaigns. And that's, and if you look at that, from that perspective, there's so much jobs out there, so much work. Like we have been working remotely. Me and my co-founder, actually, we've been working for almost 10 years remotely. And we can tell you that it's the jobs out there is, enormous. There's a big gap of the talent and the jobs. It's just that the talent doesn't know where to find these jobs. And these jobs, usually they're so bogged down with the applications that they get that they're kind of like, having a hard time picking which one they want to hire. So there's a mismatch. And what we're trying to do is try to bridge that gap between the talent and the companies and the businesses that are looking for help. And that's that's why the work remote came about. We're here to guide people. So what are the things that our applicants or our learners were needed? What kind of support were they asking when we ran the program? So 70% of them actually said that they needed guidance on where to start. These are, by the way, these are amazing people. They have like degrees and whatnot. Some of them didn't also, but they have a lot of experience, so what they lack in degree, they made up in experience. But they didn't know where to start. Like, where do we even begin? Like, I've been working in the same career for 20 years and now I have to start from scratch because I don't know where to find these jobs. Like, what are the jobs that are available out there? And that's where we step in, right? We guide them. Okay, these are the available jobs in the market, right? These are your skills. You can use the skills that you've already accumulated, for the past 20 years doing this job, and apply that for a new career online. Whether you want to transfer, let's just say you're an accountant and you want to do accounting, but you want to do that online. By all means, you can go ahead and do that. Now you can do that online, right? So you can choose to stay in the same industry, because the industries that we have in the real world, in the physical world, are slowly migrating into digital. Now, one of our one company called Safety Wing is also releasing a product that is virtual health, wherein you can call in and have a consult with a doctor virtually. So you can, and you know, healthcare is a very essential type of work, but we are slowly adapting that to a digital format. So other than guidance, they also needed career coaching. And so this is where we normally get stuck, because we don't know how to brand ourselves. We don't know how to put our best foot forward when it comes to applying for work. Maybe it's cultural, maybe it's, you know, maybe because we were never taught about this when we were growing up or when we graduated from college. I'm sure the universities now are doing a better job than they did when we were still in college, but we never had this. You know, we never had this pep talk like, no, you can go ahead and do this in your resume and whatnot, and you can do this in your LinkedIn and all that stuff. So we help them when it comes to putting their best self forward whenever they apply, like working on their CV, working on their cover letters, and all that sort of thing, and their LinkedIn as well, how to network online. And then lastly, the mentorship, wherein we try to bring them into our network and basically mentor them, like this is what worked and this is what didn't work for us. We just share, you know, what we have. And by the way, Work Remote is part of a larger organization. We are part of a larger group, an association of different remote workers, of different companies that are working remotely, that are advocating for remote working. And some of those people, some of those advocates are going to be presenting today as well. And speaking of career guidance and career coaching, one of our speakers from Microsoft today, Trish, is going to talk specifically about that, right? So how do you work on your CV and show up on interviews and whatnot? So it would be a very exciting topic to talk about. But yeah, so that is it for me. If you have any questions, this would be the right time to ask them. Okay, I think we're running out of time. And so we are gonna go ahead and answer your questions in the chat. And then we will see you on 15 minutes later, because Jason Dulay is actually going to present to us, you know, the evolution of freelancing in the Philippines. So that's a very exciting topic as well. So make sure to stand by and watch the presentation. I'll see you then.